Shadow is a mighty lucky dog. He is the official greeter and security guard at a unique museum in Paramus, New Jersey. The life of his owner, former Marine Jim Flurchick, has gone to the dogs. Almost all of us have heard a dog called a man's best friend. And most of us are aware of the need for police dogs in the Canine Corps. But few Americans are aware of the contribution of the war dog. These are dogs which served in the U.S. military. Many of them died in battle, and it is said that without them, many more men would have lost their lives. For 3 years, Flurchick has worked to build his War Dog Museum by traveling to hundreds of trade shows, auctions, and as he says, beating the bushes. He's collected an immense array of artifacts and articles, bringing to life the history of Uncle Sam's canine soldiers. The memorabilia is mostly in mint condition, organized in intricate detail, and divided by periods of war from World War I to the present.
It started primarily as a hobby, for my own enjoyment. And again, nobody's done it. It's something I feel should be done. Nobody, to my knowledge, is specialized in just war dogs. There are other collectors that collect war dog items. I know of a few, but not to the extent that I do, as far as displaying it, and they'll collect other militaria as well.
In this century, 40,000 dogs served America with honor. There were at least as many dog handlers. Flurchick was not one of them. So what spurred him to spend every spare minute creating a war dog museum?
And my love of dogs, and wanting to see that they get the recognition they deserve for what they've done.
What have they done?
Saved lives, principally. Served man, and not for want of anything than a pat on the head.
The majority of war dogs have been German Shepherds, Labrador Retrievers, and Doberman Pinschers. However, 32 breeds have seen military duty. A dog's sense of hearing is 20 times better than a man's. His sense of smell, 40 times better, and works up to 1,000 yards. They are adaptable to many situations. They respond to teaching and have an excellent problem-solving ability. In early America, Benjamin Franklin observed how dogs use their superior senses, and he advocated their use in warfare. But it would be many more years before the dogs heard the call to arms.
Roughly, it started about 1885 in Germany, France, England, Russia. These countries trained dogs, equipped them. We are late comers. And even today, they want to cut back on the canine services. And I can't believe that. They should put more emphasis on what they can accomplish. It's unbelievable.
This original World War I poster depicts America's first use of war dogs. Many considered it experimental, and the majority of the canines came from France and England. Their real value was not evident until World War II.
1942, Dogs for Defense was organized to recruit them, and they were on trial actually with the Marine Corps. Bougainville was the first real action, and they proved so successful from that point on that it became widespread. I mean, one dog can take the place of 10 sentries.
Sentry duty was only one of many tasks the dogs performed. As scouts, they often led the squad. Their sense of smell aided in tracking the enemy. Although other animals such as horses, elephants, and pigeons served in wartime, no animal has filled so many positions as the dog. They served as border guards, bomb detectors, messengers, sled pullers, gun and ammo carriers, telephone line layers, pigeon carriers, and possibly their biggest contribution, getting help to the wounded.
Generally, if a soldier gets wounded, he'll try to hide, get away from the shell fire or whatever, hide in a shell hole or behind trees or anywhere, and badly wounded can't even cry out for help. The dog could find him. Most of the search work had to go on at night. Without lanterns or anything, obviously. They didn't want to draw fire.
How many soldiers owe their lives to the war dogs is not known, but it is estimated that they reduce casualties by about 60%. Approximately 10,000 American soldiers were saved by dogs in Vietnam, mostly by giving early silent warning to the presence of the enemy. In return, their greatest reward was approval and praise. They operated through every diversity, surrounded by the sights and sounds of battle. Some arrived at their destination by parachute. Others traveled many miles on foot, often pulling large dog sleds. Their feet were protected by strong leather boots. Like most of their handlers, the dogs had no say in the decision to leave the good life at home and go off to war.
Why do these dogs deserve to have recognition?
I would say for the service that they've done again for me and not been recognized for. A tremendous amount of humanitarian service has been done. Again, we have memorials to warships, to tanks, all sorts of museums, to the military, West Point and so on, to uniforms and soldiers, and they deserve their point in history, absolutely. But why overlook the aspect of the dog? Japan has memorials to dogs, 2, 3 of them. Germany has memorials, Italy, France, most every other country, Russia. Why don't we?
The idea that something should be done to remember America's war dogs does not belong to Jim Florczyk alone. Tens of thousands of U.S. servicemen spent their time in the military in partnership with a dog. Here in Jacksonville, Florida, For Veterans Only discovered a Vietnam veteran who was in the Canine Corps and is now dedicated to getting the war dogs the honors they deserve. As a scout dog handler, Joe White safely led more than 250 missions in Vietnam. His teammate, then as now, is a black German Shepherd. Phu Bai is named after the Vietnamese town where White met his first dog. It was an experience which now directs most of his life's work, recognition of America's dogs of war.
I was a point man, the dog's job, and when we'd find a really hot trail, we'd stop. And the very first time we ever did that, I didn't understand it because I would think you'd follow the trail, but we didn't, we stopped. And the next thing I knew, a Huey helicopter came out, hovered over us, lowered a rope, a guy slid down, and then they lowered a dog down. And that was my first introduction to a dog team.
White was so impressed with the performance of the dog as a soldier that he immediately transferred to become a handler. His dog was named Ebony, and together they served 14 months. Dozens of times, Ebony's keen senses brought warning of attack.
I was about to leave from the end of a mission, and I was at an LZ in a landing zone. And Ebony kept going to the edge, the part of the trail that these guys were going to continue on down. And she would stop there and throw up her ears like she heard something. And I warned these guys. I said, I don't know what it is, but I'm sure she hears something down there. And you guys got to follow that trail when I leave. You ought to know about it. Well, several weeks later, I went back out on a mission with the same unit, just coincidentally. And these guys were just so glad to see me because they told me the story of how, sure enough, when I left, they became very cautious going down the trail, and they saw the ambush before it was turned on them.
Besides being a good soldier, Ebony was a good friend and a mascot with the ability to raise the men's spirits.
She was special in another way in that she cheered you up. She was really good for morale. And the guy who handled the dog before me had taught her this trick, kind of centered around the anti-war days. You could say to Ebony, Ebony, would you rather be in the Army or would you rather be a dead dog? And she'd play dead, which really kind of cheered everybody up.
The partnership of Ebony and White is legendary. It was their separation which fueled the fire to gain recognition for America's war dogs.
When the U.S. pulled out of Vietnam, we gave the dogs to the Vietnamese Army as, quote, surplus equipment, end quote. And that's really what we did. We treated them as a weapon, just gave them to the Vietnamese. When the country fell, and the Vietnamese Army even left their own family members behind, we feel quite certain they left the dogs, abandoned them, chained to their kennels at the mercy of the VC and the NVA. A tragic ending to a heroic service.
White now teaches obedience training for pets, is a Mr. Mom for 2 kids, and is founder and president of the National War Dog Memorial Project.
Well, Mr. Stewart? Mr. Stewart, this is Joe White with the National War Dogs Memorial Project. Yeah, hey, it was good talking. Yeah,
with the support of about 1,000 subscribers, White is determined to make sure America remembers its 4-legged warriors.
We've gone ahead and incorporated, become a nonprofit, tax-exempt organization with a 2-pronged goal. One is to establish the world's only multi-war Canine Corps memorial. In other words, we want to honor all of our dogs from all of our wars in a single memorial. The other part of that is education. We're really afraid that the whole history of the Canine Corps is just fading from memory. And if you ask the typical person, they never heard of the dogs, myself included until I get into this. So we're sure then that if we get this memorial built, it'll be a lasting educational thing. We'd like people to go to this memorial, look at it, and say, I never knew that.
A cemetery in Vietnam is one of the few places which tells the story of America's dogs of war. Other countries even cast medals for their four-legged heroes. This German World War I medal and this Japanese World War II medallion were both awarded even in defeat.
Many times, as in Nam, they were considered surplus equipment. And it's a shame, but this is the fact. So this is why they were killed and buried and not recognized. There were exceptions, of course, where dogs were honored and held in high esteem, particularly by the troops, not so much by the governments that put them there.
One of the animals so honored was Chips, whose story was recently told in the Disney movie Chips the War Dog.
It's a true story about a dog that had served in World War II and had distinguished himself, got recognition in the way of medals that were presented to him, but he was not allowed to keep. They were rescinded because the decorations were for humans, not dogs. Now, other countries, again, Japan, Britain, even Germany awarded, and France awarded medals, combat medals, Croix de Guerre, Iron Cross, to dogs, as we didn't. We had no recognition.
As for the museum, Flurchick and White are searching for a way to make it more accessible to the public.
We would like, ideally, to be able to buy out James Flurchick's wonderful collection, and the guy's just got a tremendous collection of War Dog memorabilia, and then be able to put that someplace, maybe like in Orlando, you know, the tourist capital of the world, where a lot of people could enjoy it. You know, that's really what I'd like to see, is where we can get large numbers of people to be able to pass through, and much like the memorial itself, it could be an educational thing.
I'd like to see a permanent museum. If not something I could do, perhaps, I can't say like the Smithsonian or somebody, but preserved, kept intact, grow, added to.
Soldiers who have fought alongside war dogs feel they deserve a memorial together in the nation's capital.
So we would like to have a relief mural, something that people, blind people, can even go up and touch. And for people then to see this thing and look at it, and like I said before, go away saying, well, I never knew that the dogs did this and did that and the other. And we would like it, ideally, to be along the entrance drive to Arlington National Cemetery, not in the cemetery itself, outside along Memorial Drive. There's a place along the drive right next to the 101st Airborne's memorial that if you looked at the site, it's like something's missing there. There's a blank place along that drive, and it would be the ideal place.
Washington, D.C. is an appropriate place, as it is a city of memorials and monuments. It's being sketched out, laid out. You know, there is a prototype of a monument.
This rough draft is now being detailed. The National War Dog Memorial Project may still be a dream, but it is beginning to wake up.
It would be white granite, which matches the memorials in the same area, relief bronze in the middle, and it would go one panel to the next. It would be World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and now Kuwait. And the way we've designed this particular memorial, and that could change if someone comes up with a better design, but we've designed it so, God forbid, if there's another war, additional panels can be added on.
They fought for freedom we and our pets enjoy. They deserve America's thanks.
It would be the dogs out on the perimeter of the men sleeping their eternal sleep. And it would be like the dogs pulling guard on them forever.
In Jacksonville, Mike Victor reporting for Veterans Only.